All right. Good morning and welcome everybody to your Healthy Self podcast. Really excited about the follow up from last week. So hopefully you guys are all buckled up, strapped in, and ready for a wild ride because today is the day. It is Thursday morning, and I am your host of the day, Kate Archibald, and I got along with me the one and only OG himself, Regan Archibald. We're going through his book, Never Stop Healing. But before we dive into that, want to cover a few things. We had an amazing Health Accelerator challenge last night. So if you're not a part of that group, make sure you are going to ACU, that's acueastwest.com/hack. You can register for that. That is our community where we go through different health challenges. Right now, we're on the longevity and really, really cool challenges over the last 2 weeks. Last week, it was a positive focus journal. So, really focusing on positive mindset. So, some really cool stuff there. This week is the sit rising test. So, this is where you sit on the floor, stand up without using any hands. If you can do this, you are a lot more likely to be living another, I think is it 10 years or 15 years based on the
Yeah,
study?
yeah, it shows, well, it gives you a prediction of falling and breaking a hip. And when you fall and fracture a hip, then your chances of living a long life are diminished substantially.
So make sure you can always stand without using your hands. Go from sit to rising. So that's the
Yep.
challenge this week is practice that. Do it with, if you can't do it with no hands, try with one and work your way up.
Yeah. And just to give you guys a little motivation around this little exercise, this hack, the Health Accelerator Challenge is the study showed that people who have a hip fracture after the age of 65, 50% will die within 6 months. So that this is going to be a key thing to do to work on. I was working on mine this morning. I did as many as I could in a minute, standing, sitting, standing,
Nice.
sitting. And so I'll record it and put it in our Signal group.
Perfect. I dig that. Yeah, I saw Carly's video. Thanks for sharing that. I know Carly's not on this, but maybe watching the recording at some point.
Yeah.
So our show today brought to you by The Smart Medicine. That's thesmartmedicine.com. I'm actually gonna pull this up real quick. If you guys haven't been there yet, go to this website. Got some amazing supplements on here. Some of my favorite. So optimal movements, more for movement. It's got some hyaluronic acid, some anti-inflammatory nutrients in there, and very, very powerful for moving your joints. So if you're having a tough time sit to rising and you're in pain with that, get some optimal movement. Also stem boost, one of my favorite protein mix for immune health, as well as helps with boosting your internal stem cells through some of the mushrooms that are in that formula. So go to thesmartmedicine.com and grab some good stuff. All right, well let's dive into the topic today. So we're resuming. So if you guys tuned in last week, we were talking about Reagan's new book, Never Stop Healing. I think we got to just got to the sleep chapter that I believe that's chapter 5. Am I right, Reagan?
Chapter 6 is what we kind of entered into a little bit, and so we can share a few more things on sleep, and then we'll kind of access. We should be able to make it all the way through the rest of the book today, and so this will give you an overview, and then watch for the links coming out, so you guys can purchase this, and then we're going to have a holiday special where you guys can actually get the book, have a consultation, an examination, and then some kind of treatment. And you can get that for your friends, your family, and the value, they'll also get access to the hacks, to the hack community. That's a $500 value alone. And so this gift that you give your friends, family, coworkers, it will be just a $30 gift. So we're hoping it will help the procrastinators like myself out there get your Christmas shopping done before Christmas Eve, which is when I usually do mine. So
It's a perfect Christmas gift, and you can get it early. Awesome. Well, so we're on chapter 6 on sleep. So let's jump into the mindset of that, Reagan.
Yeah, so this one, if you look at the book, what it is it's called Never Stop Healing. And these are the unknown shortcuts with peptides to live an extraordinary life. So shortcuts are really important when it comes to healing, because a lot of us, we take the long way. The long way is using medications to mask symptoms and never actually confronting the problem. It's like when you've got an issue in your life and you just keep sweeping it under the rug every day, hoping it will go away. That's the long route to healing. And that's what Western medicine has trained us to and conditioned us to do, which is just take more medications for your symptoms and don't take the time to actually address the problem. So what we do in this book, when we show you shortcuts, the shortcuts are the absolute key for you to progress and achieve the health of your dreams. And so we give you 14 challenges in this book, and each one of the challenges is backed up by research. And it also has anecdotal stories. You've got testimonials of people who have breakthroughs in their own health by just doing these simple challenges. And then I also give you some core peptides or innovative medicine that you can use as a bypass, as a healing bypass, which creates another shortcut to you achieving the health of your life. Because the only way anyone can live an extraordinary life is to have extraordinary health. It's very rare that somebody, feels like, well, I had an extraordinary life when they get to the end of their life, but they had chronic pain and no energy to get themselves through it. And so this book is for those people who are feeling frustrated in not being able to find the right course of care and the right course of action. I felt the same way. When I started looking into medicine 25 years ago, for my own chronic conditions, I realized, like, man, there's just not a lot of great answers out there. In the conventional medical world, there's a lot of innovations that come out of the research that's done. But then what I found that there's actually breakthroughs that existed 3,000 years ago, like acupuncture that still works, or like herbal therapy. And then as I jumped into that world, I started feeling more and more energized and excited about these new opportunities in health. And now, since then, now we're fast forward 25 years. We're 2021, at the end of 2021 right now. For those of you who listen to this show in the future, now it's more exciting than ever, because we have all these regenerative medicine therapies, we have peptide therapies, we have functional medicine, we have innovative medicine, which we're bringing to the masses through our Go Wellness community. So there's so many exciting things. So as we go through this today, I'm going to encourage you guys, just like we did on the last show. If you haven't listened to the last podcast, dive in. And as we go through each one of these mindsets and the challenges, maybe try them out for yourself, because it's like Dan Sullivan says, is everybody is 100% disciplined to their existing set of habits. I had a patient yesterday say, my biggest issue is I'm just not disciplined enough. And I said, well, actually, everybody is 100% disciplined to their existing set of habits. And he just started laughing. He said, oh, wow, that's so true. And so all this book is doing is help forging some new habits in very small, easy ways. And then it's community based, because we've got our whole online group with our Health Accelerator challenges. And so we provide you the access to all that content and data. And then hopefully you'll want to come over and be part of our group and have some fun with us. Every Wednesday night we do it. And then almost every day we're posting in our Signal group. And pretty soon we'll have a Facebook a group as well. So that's the overview. So sleep. Mindset for sleep. Well, we shared this last time, but you set high sleep standards so you can enjoy consistent energy levels. And so the great thing about sleep is it's underutilized. People don't talk about it a lot. And I share a story, I guess I should say, about the fact that we can go longer without food than we can go without sleep. So, Kate, you've heard me talk about those basically the deprivation, the food deprivation, and where people put themselves in kind of a fasting state and they just stay hydrated, and they can go 60 days and their liver actually shrinks 50%. And then they come out of that state and start eating again, and then the liver grows back to its original size. Well, you can't go 60 days without sleep. Pretty interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think there was that guy that who it was
This is it right here. Yeah,
oh,
if you look at the book, yeah, the 26-year-old, he stayed up for
oh, there it
11
is. He
days.
stayed up straight watching soccer games for the World Cup, right?
Yep, he's a 26-year-old, like trying to smoke cigarettes, use stimulants. He's like, I'm not going to miss a single moment of the World Cup. And that little challenge he gave himself, that's not a hack. It's not a health accelerator challenge. That's a HDC, a health decelerator challenge. So he died, and our brains will literally go into, you'll have this seizures when you don't get enough sleep. And so sleepless, and if you sleep less than 5 hours a night, that doubles your risk of death from cardiovascular disease. It dysregulates your blood sugar, creates cravings, you're more hungry. So it's just not a good thing. So the hack of this one was to make sure that at night you are, in the morning, this is where the sleep hygiene comes in. You give yourself some time in the sun, get rid of those sunglasses. Stop caffeine by 9 a.m. if you're sensitive to caffeine, or 12 at the latest. And then look at circadian rhythms, and then make sure you get rid of any kind of EMFs in your room, no computers, no TV. Get away from your cell phone at least an hour before bed. Use blue light blockers. These are all really important things. And then some of the peptides are like the deep sleep inducing peptide. That's DSIP. And this can retrain your pineal gland to express the right amount of melatonin at the right time. And so the pineal gland helps you with serotonin, oxytocin levels. So when you wake up after using this peptide, you feel amazing, nice restorative sleep. So that's sleep. We kind of covered it last week, but this week, maybe we'll jump into water. Water is kind of interesting, Cade, because if you're not hydrated, what's your experience like on a day-to-day basis if you don't have good hydration?
Lots of fatigue, headaches. It's not a good experience for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of people mistake, they think they have some kind of chronic issue, and they go and they get all this work done on their neck and their back, and I'm sure that work is super helpful. Or they try all these medications, and at the end of the day, what we realize, we run their blood work, and we say, well, your kidney function is really low. I mean, your GFR, we had a renologist, an MD in our Go Wellness group, talk about kidney function. And what we started realizing is, most nephrologists, they don't even do anything for the kidneys until you're ready for dialysis. And she believes that the kidneys and the hydration in our body, that's at the root of all chronic diseases. And so it was interesting having that conversation, because this one simple hack, and this is chapter 7. So this is your 7th week in the journey, the 14-week journey with us. But just by having a depletion in water, what people found is that they actually have diminishing of kidney function. And then that creates insulin resistance, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. And then downstream, it can make you more susceptible to things like cancer. So hydration is pretty key. And Cade, when we say hydration, I guess what would be a good definition of that? Is it just carrying around gallons of water?
No, I think better, you know, so drinking a lot of water is important, but I think getting the right electrolytes and right minerals in your water is just as or more important, because if you're just like the people that drink like gallons of water a day, that can actually be dehydrating. It just flushes all the minerals and everything out of your system, and if you're not replenishing those, you're still gonna have signs and symptoms of dehydration. Dehydration.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation. I had a patient who was doing her lab review, and I said, "Oh man, it looks like your kidney function, GFR is low," and she was young, and I said, "Wow, what's going on? Your potassium sodium ratios are off, everything's low, your chloride's low." And she said, "Well, I drink a lot of water. I don't know why you're saying this." And I said, "Okay, well, what's the source of your water?" Because sometimes if she had some thyroid issues too, because remember that study where just drinking tap water for a week, the fluoride in tap water can actually trigger hypothyroidism. So I thought, well, maybe it's the tap water. Maybe there's something that's not working in there. And she said, "No, I drink distilled water, and that's all I drink. I just don't like how water tastes unless it's distilled." And I said, "Well, in animal studies, it actually kills. If you feed your pet distilled water for a couple of months, it will kill them." And she's like, "Oh, really?"
Whoa.
So yeah, be careful, because it will leach the minerals out of your body. Because remember, it's osmosis. We're an osmotic being, and it's the charge from the electrolytes that you use that give your body the energy, and they help hydrate your brain, hydrate your liver, your heart, everything. So you need hydration. So in this really important, my opinion is, in any nutritional plan, start with hydration. It's the easiest place to go. And how many of you out there have noticed that when you're dehydrated, it has an impact on the way you think and the way you feel? And you guys can plug it in the chat box, or maybe you can just ask yourself that question. But this is, the minerals and the transportation of these minerals are so key. So if you think about what water does, our bodies are about 70% water, but the water transports all your hormones, your peptides, your nutrients, waste product, and genetic function. It dissolves and breaks down solids, including things like kidney stones, cleans your kidneys as well as your liver, your filtration system. Your ability to detox depends on water, helps you get hormones and neurotransmitters where they need to go, and supports the conductivity, pads your joints. So yeah, and the discs in your spine, the hydration in your knees. If you don't have enough water, you're literally shorter by the end of the day. So these are really important things. And then it also regulates your body temperature. So it looks like we had a couple comments come in. What?
Yeah, so Bev said exactly. I've been passing out due to low sodium. It is serious. Balance on water, sodium, and electrolytes is really important. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Diane said this is great information.
Oh,
Thanks for the
awesome.
comments, everybody.
Good to have you guys here. Yeah, and that's scary. I mean, if you get your electrolytes out of balance enough, it can be deadly, as you're alluding to there, Bev, and as you've experienced, it can be so detrimental to your health. So one of the things you want to realize is, remember, you're about 8 to 12 ounces dehydrated when you wake up, and the way that we talk about this in the hack, as we go through this 100-day challenge, is we said, look at your urine, and you guys can do this today. Is your urine, is it dark? Is it, if you have urine that's too light and there's no color to it, you're probably overdoing it. You're drinking too much water and not having enough electrolytes. You want your urine to be a little bit of a yellowish color. Sometimes if you take B vitamins, it's going to be super fluorescent. But really, especially those of you who take diuretics, maybe you have high blood pressure and you're on a diuretic, you got to be very careful and make sure you get your sodium, potassium, your chloride, magnesium. These levels need to be tested very often. So when you wake up in the morning, a great thing to do is just drink a glass of water, put some electrolytes in there. The Smart Medicine, we're going to have some of the best electrolytes very soon. We're bringing some drops that are very high in magnesium, especially the magnesium glycinate, which relaxes the whole body. And then it's got a good potassium source in it. And then we're going to have another powdered version of electrolytes that has all of the minerals that your body needs, so you can balance it out. Because, when we originally, when you drink water, you go to the farm in Idaho and we're getting it from a well, and that well the water hasn't been treated. It's clean naturally, and it still has its minerals in there. Or if you think about going and getting water straight out of a spring, you're going to have the minerals because the water is rolling off rocks and it's naturally cleansing itself. But nowadays, with our growth in population and the cities we have, most of us have treated water, and so it's really important to filter that water, get it clean, and then get some electrolytes at least 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how much you work out. You want to add some electrolytes. If you drink coffee is going to deplete your magnesium levels, and it will disrupt your sodium and potassium levels. So putting a little bit of salt into your coffee, which sounds kind of weird, but it's actually can be pretty tasty. That can be helpful. And then making sure you're supplementing with magnesium, or eating a lot of leafy greens to counteract some of the depletion that happens with coffee. So, Kate, any thoughts on that? A little salt in your coffee?
Yeah, I usually just I don't add like salt specifically. I do butter, the Kerrygold salted butter. I don't know if that's any
Oh yeah,
better.
there you go. Yeah, it's got salt in it. That's perfect. Yeah, so I mean, this can be an easy way. I like to put the chocolate bone broth, chocolate collagen peptides, and then I put this French sea salt in there, and it's so nice. And then I put a little bit of butter, and it's a really tasty mix. I've had people, I've made them coffee like, this is the best coffee. I've had other people be like, this coffee is like soup. It's too thick.
Too much.
Too
Yeah,
much.
I really enjoy your coffee, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, so yeah, your stress levels are going to, because remember, your adrenal glands sit right on top of your kidneys. And so by being in stress, that stress mode is going to deplete your electrolytes and your minerals. And so this is why we use our EPIC in our 3-4-5 method of healing, our East-West proprietary method. What we do is we remove all of these triggers, the emotional, physical, immune, and chemical traumas in the body. And so the very first place to start is hydration. If you have emotional trauma, emotional stress, get hydrated, because your brain will relax more. It'll get you out of that kind of fight or flight triggered mode. If you have physical stress in your body, like osteoarthritis, you're going to need more fluid. You're going to need more hydration into your joints. If you have any issues when it comes to immune intolerance, I can tell you, you will not combat viral infections or bacterial infections nearly as well if you're not hydrated. And then finally, if you have chemical stressors, remember, hydration is the necessary component for detoxification. And I think we've all experienced that when we've not eaten our best. We're like, well, I'm at least going to drink water. And then just by drinking more water, you can actually flush out some of the toxins. So really, some easy things you can do with water, and they will support everything. So the biggest thing that you can do right now to see if you're dehydrated. Well, first thing is, dehydrated starts before you're even thirsty. So look at your urine. Look at spots on your nails and cracks in your nails. Do you get headaches? Do you have muscle cramps? Do you have strong smells? When you drink coffee, and we talk about that if you can smell the coffee when you're urinating, there's a good chance you have some mold toxicity. So a little bit, you're going to notice some of those metabolites, but strong smell, that's a problem. So yeah, look at your urine, see what it is. And then the big challenge is just add electrolytes. And get rid of the iodized table salt, but even putting in a little bit of Redmond sea salt, just a pinch of that in the morning, or getting some trace minerals, that's going to be one of the most important things you can do. So there you go. There's hydration. So who's ready to drink some more water? I'll drink some more water.
Yes. Cheers to that.
One of the, as far as nurturing your kidneys is ARA 290. ARA 290 is one of the most powerful peptides that we found recently that can help stabilize blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, triglycerides, cholesterol. This incredible peptide promotes erythropoietin, and that's a hormone produced by the kidneys to create red blood cells. So the red blood cells carry the nutrients and keep the blood nice and fluid and hydrated. So this can be a lifesaver. So ARA 290 is if you're chronically dehydrated and have issues regulating the minerals in your kidneys, ARA 290 is the way to go. All right, let's talk about cold. So Wim Hof. Kate, tell us a little bit about Wim Hof. You kind of look like him.
So Wim Hof is he's a beast. But yeah, he has some different breathing exercises and some really cool stuff to be able to combat cold exposure, because I think yeah, cold is like something it's uncomfortable, it's not enjoyable usually, and he's like totally hacked that whole that whole exposure. And I think one of the fascinating things that I learned about him was doing like some physiology. Like he's trained his body's physiology to be able to be exposed to crazy temperatures and not really impact his underlying physiology just by breath work and mindset. But yeah, he ran, was it an ultra marathon? He ran shirtless in like
Marathon in Antarctica. Yeah.
Antarctica. Yeah. Yeah. He is.
Shorts and no shirt. That's it.
Yeah. It's impressive. Yeah. So he's got the cold exposure down.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we share some of his techniques. We don't want anyone to be extreme, but what our mindset is, mindset number 8 is 20 seconds of cold for a leaner, more energized me. Sign me up. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. So just a little bit of cold exposure every day. What it does is it's one of the fastest ways you can regulate what's called your heart rate variability. And so in this chapter, we dive into the importance of having vagal tone, having good connection in your autonomic nervous system, where when you're in fight or flight, you need to run and sprint. You've got good capacity. So if you don't walk upstairs and feel energized by the top step, if you're out of breath, there's a good chance that you have some issues with your heart rate variability. If you put your head between your legs and sit up too fast and the room starts spinning, there's a good chance you have an issue with your heart rate variability. And so for those of you who are feeling like you just don't have the horsepower you used to, one of the reasons is we lose that vagal tone. And then any stress that hits us, it knocks us out of the game. And part of the problem with modern day society is we go from a 70-degree house to a 70-degree preheated car. And then we get out and we go into an office or a store, and we don't really expose ourselves to a lot of environmental changes. And then when we have big shifts in the weather pattern, everybody gets sick because our bodies aren't used to tolerating extreme cold or extreme heat. And so this is where cold and heat exposure can be really beneficial for your immune system. And so cold exposure, how many of you have jumped in? And I know many of you, when we did this hack, we could literally, we found out if you sing happy birthday twice was kind of the goal that we decided in the hack. And we could hear some of you kind of like grunting from a long ways away, like, ah. It was a fun hack. How many of you have enjoyed and continued on that challenge of getting some cold exposure? Good. Hopefully, several of you. It's something, as we're getting closer to winter, I love it because the cold water is even colder these days. And what we shared in the book too is for those of you who are looking to just keep your fat as an energy source instead of fat as kind of a baggage that you carry around. The best way to do that is to turn your white fat into brown fat, because the white fat is the metabolically inactive fat, and that creates more inflammation, more insulin resistance. And that's because the mitochondria are just in the center of that fat molecule. And so the mitochondria aren't even active. They're just kind of lazing around. And so if you have cold exposure, what the research shows is that you activate the mitochondria in the center of the fat cell, and then they start migrating out towards the surface of the cell, and that changes the color. And then the color of your fat becomes more brown fat, and brown fat is metabolically active. So you need some brown fat. So when you're in a fasted state, your body just starts pulling from that fat as an energy source, and it's a great way to melt fat. If your body is not cold adapted, where you don't have a lot of cold sensations stimulating that fat burning, then your fat cells become a little bit more inflamed, and then they start collecting more fat cells and more fat cells. So one of the best ways to keep your body primed is get in some cold. I like ice baths. Cade's got a whole freezer. You've got your crazy freezer, Cade. Maybe you could tell people about what your setup is.
Yeah, so a really like I looked at the cold plunges, and you can buy some really cool looking sophisticated systems, but they're usually somewhere between like 5 and 10 grand. I just felt like that's a little excessive. So for me, I got a freezer from like a deep freezer. So I got one of the larger ones. I think it's about 50, maybe 20 cubic feet is how big it is. But big enough to fit me like head to toe. I have to kind of crunch it down, but I put that. I have a little timer, um, and so that timer I plug into the outlet, and it'll flip on and off certain times. So about what I've found is 3 hours in the night in the summer works great. Winter, like mine froze over. I got a big block of ice in there right now, so it got colder a lot faster than usual in St. George. So I didn't prepare. So right now I haven't taken time because I got to get like a hammer and crush it all up, and it's a little maintenance process. But if you keep the temperature right, you don't let it freeze over. It just has this thin little crust of ice on it, maybe a little ice on the outsides, and you can break those off, and it's just like this chunky ice bath that's always ready for you, and you can hop in that. And then I really enjoy going hot then cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then pivoting back and forth really just feels amazing. You get some of those endorphins and get a little tingly. Makes it really fun. But yeah, it's a nice little hack. And then a one extra step I take it to keep the water clean, because that's another thing is you don't want to be like constantly draining it and get like weird stuff growing in there. And so I have an ozonator that connects to it. It's got like a little chalk ball on the bottom, and so I flip that on after I get in, and that's nice antibacterial, cleans out the water. You don't want to get in that right after it's been ozonated. You want to let it settle because yeah, you don't want to just be breathing that in. So I close it up, turn that on, and then I go to my thing. It's got a little 60-minute timer on it, and it shuts off itself. So it's cool what you can do with just a little basic technology.
Yeah, it's a few $100
Yeah, I think I
versus.
spent maybe 200 on the freezer, and then maybe 30 to 50 bucks on the other stuff. So I think all in it was under $400.
That's great.
Automated automated cold plunge.
Yeah, so getting the cold. So one of the biggest things it can do is it helps shrink your blood vessels. So all that cold, your body constricts, and all the blood from your extremities goes to protect your organs, because you can live without your arms and hands, but you can't live without your organs. And so all that energy, it just pushes your blood to the organs and really nurtures them. And then when your body gets out of that cold and you get some heat exposure, then all your blood vessels dilate, and then you get this massive increase in blood vessel health. So you want your blood vessels to be able to contract and open up easily. But the problem is there's this condition called sarcopenia, and sarcopenia is when our blood vessels get brittle. And then we lose muscle mass. We don't have enough balance. Our nervous system don't receive the nutrients they need. And so cold exposure is great for that. One of the peptides that you can use to mimic cold exposure is the sarcotropin IPA. And many of you have used this one. It's a nootropic. It helps the brain, but it also helps improve your IGF-1 levels. And then sarcotropin has some amino acids in it that help really trigger that vasodilation. So it helps increase your circulation. So there's your peptide for it. So, all right. So your challenge is cold showers. Just start with 20 seconds. If you're feeling adventurous, jump in a cold lake and go to Cade's house and get in his freezer.
Yeah.
Sing happy birthday twice. Yep. And you can, if no one's around, use explicitives. Yeah, that's been shown to help some in research. You can actually tolerate cold better. They have done studies where people dip their hand in ice, and the ones who are swear have a longer hold time than the ones who don't. So for whatever that's worth. All right, let's go to chapter 9. This is timed eating. How many of you have ever looked at, the complexity in diets? I mean, there's 1,500 diet books that are written every single year. And of those diet books, they're great for a certain subset of the population, and they're great, but there's no one size fits all. And so the only core underlying principle that I found is that timed eating can be something that virtually everybody can benefit from. And if you're diabetic, this is one area where you've got to make sure that you're on the shorter side of that, or the longer side of the eating window, versus if you're not, or if you have thyroid issues. But in general, if you limit the time that you're putting anything into your mouth or body besides water and minerals, then you minimize that to 12 hours. That's where you can really start maximizing your nutrition. And so this mindset is, it's not just about how much I eat, it's when I choose to eat. And so timed eating, maybe Cade, you could just give kind of an overview of what's important about timed eating.
I think the most important thing is this, like my favorite part about this is it just is simple.
Yeah.
And so if you create a time that you want to start eating, like just pick out, okay, this is gonna be my gap of when I'll eat food. And then you just start, like, my preferred is, like, I'm not gonna eat anything with excess calories. I'll still do my coffee, and sometimes there's I add some nutrients into my coffee, so I'm probably technically breaking my fast right there, because it's like a meal in some instances. But um if I really wanted to be strict, it would be like, I'm not drinking my coffee till like 10 a.m. and then I'm gonna be done eating at 7. That's like the ideal, and that's a tighter window. You can go a little bit longer, but the ideal is at least 18 hours of no eating. So it's
Yeah.
really gonna help heal up or give the digestive system a break. Just like lets everything calm down, heal up. It's just like with exercise, your body. If you just exercise nonstop, your body does not have any time to recover and heal.
Yep.
Same thing for eating is, you eat stuff, and there's always little critters, and not critters, but things in there that can cause, different irritation in the digestive system, and your digestive system's super dynamic, so it can heal that up. But you give it a break, it can really recover, and then it just works that much better.
Totally. And a lot of this research comes from the circadian code by Sachin Panda. What they found is that mice, they did this study where they just gave mice an 8-hour window. So they took obese mice, and then one group of mice, they had 24-hour access to food. And they just watched to see if there'd be any difference. They gave the other group of mice that were also obese, they just gave them an 8-hour window, same amount of calories, same food. And then they just watched to see if there'd be any difference in the overall obesity rates in these mice. And what they found is after 7 weeks, the mice eating on a timed window, that 8-hour window, and only on weekdays, by the way, they lost almost 38% more fat than the mice who had 24/7 access to food. So it's not about calories in, calories out, folks. It's about like when you're eating, what your mindset is in eating and all these things. So timed eating is one of the simplest ways that you can start really setting some goals for yourself. So in the book, we talk about the benefits of time restricted eating, how it resets your circadian rhythm, especially if you're traveling in different time zones. Eating breakfast in that time zone has actually proven to be really effective. Kind of changing your eating habits before you enter into that new time zone can prevent some of the jet lag. And then, what you see is if you're actually following a timed eating, you're going to sleep better, which creates better insulin resistance. You have more cardiovascular strength, better liver function, improved moods, decreased risk of disease, because 33% of your body's genes are regulated by a circadian rhythm. So if you're eating late at night, you don't get that genetic expression of some of those healthy genes and the healthy bacteria. So the hack for this, the challenge for this one is just let's set a time and just figure out, okay, what is going to be your time frame for eating? And so is that going to be, an 8-hour window or a 12-hour window? It depends on the day of the week for me. But typically I like to eat between about 10 and about 6. That's pretty ideal for me. Maybe 7 by the time we get done with dinner. So that seems to work great for me. Some of you, it may be even a shorter window. We have some patients who do really well just eating from 12 to 6. But what the research shows is that the shorter that window, there will be some benefits in endurance. But if you're pushing it too hard and you have blood sugar issues or thyroid issues, make sure you talk to your provider before you go too crazy on this, because some of you may need to have a longer window, as I mentioned earlier. So, all right, Kate, so that's timed eating. The great peptide for this is the Circadian Reset, which is epitalin, one of my favorite peptides. So for those of you who have any kind of PTSD, any issues with high cholesterol or too low of cholesterol, or if you have any cardiovascular health concerns, epitalin is just one of the great reset peptides. And actually the studies show it can increase longevity by about 7 years. So this is by a peptide pioneer, Dr. Vladimir Kavasin. So, all right. So epitalin, your peptide in that challenge. And then stem boost. Kate talked about this today. Another great one.
Get some stem boost.
All right. Go ahead, Kate.
No, I was just gonna say liver.
Love your liver. And we had a question that came in. So Bev asked, is epitalin the peptide for digestion? Epitalin is, from a secondary perspective, a peptide for digestion. Here's why it's secondary. The primary peptides for digestion would be like KPV or BPC 157 or even thymosin beta 4, because it repairs the intestinal lining, so it corrects leaky gut. And then LL37 is another one for digestion because it eradicates microbes. But epitalin, it helps with digestion because it resets your HPA axis. So if your body's in fight or flight mode, you're not going to have great vagal tone, which means your digestion is going to be very sluggish. So epitalin can be that key peptide to help reset the whole digestive tract for those of you who have issues. So great question there, Bev. Awesome. All right, love your liver. Everyone touch your right, just go right on the right side of your ribs, find your rib cage, and just go right to the right of it. And you're going to see you got this big old organ called your liver. That's arguably one of the most important organs in your body. And so the cool thing about your liver is it allows your body to detox and heal. It supports you every single day. It's got, if you look in the physiology books, there's about 400 digestive functions, 200 hormonal functions. The liver could be classified as an endocrine gland. It metabolizes all the estrogens. So, one of the things that we find is super important is having a really healthy liver. Otherwise, you start recycling hormones. And when you have recycled hormones, they're inactive. And so they don't bind on the receptor sites of the cells. And they end up creating a lot of disturbance in the communication in the body. So this is where peptides are really key because they help clear up that communication and help heal up the liver. And so this is an interesting one because on the liver, one of the things that we want it to do is to really start getting things cleared up from a blood sugar perspective, because the liver, it's responsible for balancing the blood sugar between meals. And so a lot of people, when they think diabetes, they think pancreas only, but that's more in type 1. But in type 2 diabetes, a lot of this is due to the toxicity because of too much spike in the blood sugar. And anytime you have a blood sugar spike, you start damaging your arterial lining of the cells. And so those endothelial cells become destroyed, and then it's really hard to transport nutrients. And that's when you get high cholesterol, because cholesterol is there to repair the damage. So if you can have really healthy liver, then what we found is your insulin levels get stabilized and your body starts functioning so much better. So one way you can check your liver is look at your fasting glucose levels, look at your hemoglobin A1C. You can also look at your ALT, your AST, even your LDH levels. These are all really important. And then your homocysteine and C-reactive peptide, C-reactive protein are important. And then your C-peptide. So some interesting things that studies show is that if you have a healthy liver, this can help decrease and stabilize your hemoglobin A1C. And just by decreasing hemoglobin A1C by 1%, decreases your risk of dying from diabetes by 21%, and decreases the microvascular complications by 37%. So kind of interesting, right, Kate? Because we go from cold and then we talk about liver, but the cold causes health in the microvascular system. So if you have any kind of issues with insulin resistance or diabetes, that cold exposure is going to be really key.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So how do we get the liver healthy? Well, you got to get rid of toxins. So we talk about indoor air pollution, and in the book, we go into so much more detail on this, but you look at your house and about 60% of the air pollution we get is from our own houses. So that's pretty scary, right? Yeah. Cause in our houses, there could be mold. A lot of us have lead paint, lead pipes. You have radon, especially if you're here in Utah, VOCs, especially in new furniture. You've got to be careful. Some of those, the fire solvents, how fire retardants that are sprayed on the furniture, those can be super toxic. The formaldehyde, the allergens, these are all things that start diminishing the function of your liver. The other thing that can do it are the dioxins. And these come from the processing of pesticides, wood preservatives, even the bleach on paper that can start accumulating in the tissue. So dioxins even come from volcanic eruptions. So try to avoid the volcano, Kate. If if you see a volcano erupt, I just recommend kind of getting out of the way.
Yeah.
I've seen what it can do in Hawaii. You put it like a stick in the flowing lava and it's just like gone in an instant. It's like, whoa. So yeah, even your vehicles, these, the automobile emissions can increase the dioxins. And what a lot of people don't realize too is the plastics that we drink. I think in our society, we've become so accustomed to using plastics in everything, but it's really put a lot of damage on our liver and a lot of pressure on it and burden. So then it can't metabolize the hormones that you need it to. You don't have the digestive system working the way it could because you don't have the healthy liver. So pretty interesting. And then finally, glyphosate. And we dive into that. And many of you have heard me talk about glyphosate as well, which shuts off that conversion of the cytochrome P450, so you don't get the conversion of vitamin D. So if you're taking a lot of vitamins and then we run your blood labs and you see that none of your vitamins are being absorbed, we got to go back to the liver. And the interesting thing is we talked about hydration today. And when you get dehydrated, your kidney's backup system is the liver. So then your liver is trying to do its best to keep the whole body hydrated. The liver is just like an amazing machine. It's kind of like that, like a really good, like executive. It's kind of like that person on the job, or like a foreman on the job who, if one of the workers isn't doing their job, he's being the carpenter and the electrician at the same time. I mean, the liver is just pretty dynamic. So take good care of your liver. So how do you do this? Well, one of the things we shared was a study where if you go and walk every day after dinner, so you don't go to bed with a full belly, that takes a huge burden off your liver, just that one little thing. We also said get rid of plastics and just try to get rid of those entirely. And then you can add in some things like berberine, gymnema, cinnamon. These are all found at the Smart Medicine with Energy Multiplier. And then eat more garlic, turmeric, and beets. That was the challenge for this particular hack. So yeah, grab those, eat them. And then the best peptide, okay, we're now able to get this, which is so exciting, but the tesamorelin, or tesamorelin, however you want to pronounce it. And the beautiful thing about tesamorelin is there's studies that show that fibrotic livers, when they've had up to 90% fibrotic tissue, they can still recover. Or if you have fatty liver disease, tesamorelin is one of those peptides that can help regenerate damaged livers. And this is a growth hormone releasing peptide. It's 44 chains of amino acids. We use this with ipamorelin. So those all need to go together. Ipamorelin is your somatostatin inhibitor, so that you can remove somatostatin, which keeps growth hormone capped, but then you get the nice signaling for it, and that helps build muscle mass, helps your body metabolize toxins. And tesamorelin, especially for people who have issues with alcohol, it can be a massive improvement there. Some of the studies also show in cognitive decline with people over 65, the mild cognitive impairment is the study they did, MPI or MCI. What they found is that with tesamorelin, people's cognitive abilities actually turned on. So this is a phenomenal peptide that we share in that chapter. So Kate, here we are, and holy smokes, I think we're gonna have to do a part 3.
Yeah, I think we're up on time, and we're just barely making it to chapter 11. So yeah, I think we'll keep going down this. I like it. We're covering about 5 chapters each, so we'll get to the end. I believe is there 15 chapters, 16?
Yeah, so there's a bonus chapter. So there's 15 core chapters, and then there's a bonus chapter too. And so and by the way, look for the link. Our publisher, they are making things just perfect. There's a couple little tweaks that Amazon wanted us to make. And we're trying to get the Kindle book, the Kindle version launched at the same time as we're getting the paperback. I've got a box of books being shipped to me right now. So, so we will have the link very soon. And so make sure you guys, purchase the book or come into the clinic, and I'll sign and autograph a copy for you. And that will be just on me. It'll be complimentary if you want to purchase the gift bag for your friends and family. That is going to be ready very soon. If you haven't thought about Christmas shopping yet, we can just get it all handled for you here, and you can give them the gift of health. So
Love that. All right. Well, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Um, Make sure you go to thesmartmedicine.com. That's our sponsor of this show. Take a look at some of the products there. We talked a little bit about Stem Boost, as well as Energy Multiplier. Those are going to be really good things, especially as you're coming into the holidays and wanting to improve your health. So cruise there. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We'll be back next week, and have an amazing one. Bye bye, everybody.
all right.